Good evening, and welcome to another Black History Moment. We are still in Women's History Month, reading from Extraordinary African Americans. Billie Holiday, 1915 to 1959. Ella Fitzgerald, 1918 to 1996. Jazz singers. Billie Holiday grew up poor in Baltimore, Maryland. Her wonderful talent surfaced early, however, and she began singing for money while still in her early teens. Holiday was strongly influenced by singer Bessie Smith and musician Louis Armstrong. In 1933, she recorded her first album. 2 years later, she made another record with Teddy Wilson and several other musicians, including saxophonist Lester Young, who gave her the nickname Lady Day. Holiday's career began to take off. In 1937, Holiday began performing with the Count Basie Band, then went on to work with white band leader Artie Shaw. In accepting the job with Shaw, Holiday became one of the first African American performers to work with an all-white group. This sometimes caused racial conflict with audiences, but Holiday was not afraid of controversy. One of her best-known songs was Strange Fruit. Written by Lewis Allen, Strange Fruit is about lynching. The title is a symbolic way of referring to the bodies of murder victims hanging from trees. Problems with drug addiction forced Holiday to enter a rehabilitation clinic in 1947. Just 3 weeks after she was released, she was arrested for drug possession and sentenced to a year in jail. Following her release, her license to perform in clubs in New York was revoked, which seriously damaged her career. In 1952, Holiday signed with Norman Granz Verve Records and recorded close to 100 songs for the label. She died in 1959, partly as a result of her drug addiction. Like Holiday, Ella Fitzgerald is considered one of the great jazz singers of the 20th century. Born in Newport News, Virginia, she was orphaned at an early age and grew up in New York City. As a young girl in 1934, she won an amateur contest at Harlem's Apollo Theater, and her prize was a chance to work with drummer and band director William Chick Webb. Webb was so impressed with Fitzgerald's talent that he asked her to join his group. She did, and while working with him, recorded 2 of her most famous songs, A Tisket a Tasket and Undecided. When Webb died in 1939, Fitzgerald took over his band and led the group for the next 3 years. She then began working with Norman Granz and toured the United States, Europe, South America, and the Far East. Like Holiday, Fitzgerald signed with Norman Granz Verve Records and produced a series of hits. Famous for her musical flexibility and melodic improvisation and scat singing, Fitzgerald is known as the First Lady of Jazz. Thank you for listening to this Black History Moment.